Welcome back again, co-learners, in this core subject, trends, networks, and critical thinking in the 21st century culture. Now, I'm going to teach you about the effects of the advancement in ICT. However, these effects were influenced by three factors, naming, namely, we have existing ICT infrastructure, level of education, skills, and income in the country, and ICT policy and regulation of the government and the level of e-government. These factors influence the supply and demand of ICT in a given country that in turn influence the impacts of ICT. This this following factors, however, deals with their relationship to the other affected areas of ICT development. All right? Now, as mentioned, these are the different impact areas affected by the supply and demand of the ICT. First, let's talk about the citizen participation. Because of ICT, the involvement of citizens are expected because of the information received by the citizens through mobile application, cell phone, internet, computers, and other platforms. So, because of the access of the citizens to these technologies, their participation in the government has been also expected or has been heard or being or happening right now. Let me give you an example. Nowadays, existing ang maraming issue sa ating bansa or even in other countries because of the development of ICT. All of us were able to access information easily through internet or those mentioned platforms a while ago. So that is one of the effects of or the impact or the areas being affected by the supply and demand of ICT. Now, what about in the economic performance? The application of ICT has brought considerable economic advantage to many countries in today's era, where when the access of information is of paramount importance. And the various aforementioned impact areas of ICT, which benefit from the utilization of ICT equipment and infrastructure, contribute to the growth of the economy of a given country. Now, the ICT has an effect either directly or indirectly on the nation's economic performance. Since, however, the availability of these services are promptly communicated to the consumers, while the needs of the consumers are also swiftly relayed to manufacturers and service providers. Any discrepancy between supply and demand is more or less immediately addressed. So as you can see on the mentioned situation or the mentioned description on the economic performance, um, there are relay of information to the service providers, and if there is the discrepancy between the supply and demand, are these are immediately addressed or being solved right away. And small and big businesses alike, as well as the consumers, benefit from the innovations brought by ICT. So, but these are the positive effect on the economic performance. Because of the ICT, nagkakaroon ng boost sa ating ekonomiya. But on its adverse effect or the downside, um, we have an increased reliance on ICT to improve the economy. So parang nagkaroon na lang tayo ng pagiging dependent or nagiging dependent na tayo sa ah, improvement ng ating ekonomiya sa ICT. So the use of ICT equipment and infrastructure for non-work related endeavors, such as the watching videos on YouTube or checking Facebook accounts during office hours, really affects somehow the performance of the employees. Of course, employees are part of our economic growth, right? Now, what about in education? In this field, the ICT worked as a platform to innovate more of strategic learning materials or enhancement in terms of the communication and imparting of knowledge and facilitating the learning process of the students. Now, it influences the recent developments in the contemporary approaches to the instruction, as well as conducting inquiries, correspondences, and transactions between the school and the current and prospective students, or even the parents, or even those who graduated, our alumni, and other benefactors. Now, in our country, it is a big help. Particularly nowadays, we are adapting to this new normal setup of education. The platform being used through the use of technologies are really added value on how are we going to facilitate this painful learning process in these trying times, no? So we have developed some ideas and activities or strategic learning activities to make it more engaging. Even though we are learning from a distance, teachers and students are trying to adapt and in this different types of technologies in our learning process nowadays, right? So, like for example, before the pandemic exists, there are existing universities who are using ICT to have a fast transaction between the students, the admin, and then the students. Halimbawa, ang online enrollment, online enlistment. All right. So it exists in different big universities here in the Philippines, whereas online ang transaction. And the virtual learning experience were also conducted as an interactive platform where students and teachers can communicate with one another. So even before the pandemic, the use of technologies in education were already existing. But today, we are more exposed with different applications, software para sa ikagaganda at ikauunlad ng ating edukasyon, sistema ng ating edukasyon. So this has been useful, particularly those who are apart from the certain university. It has become uh, reliable in terms of the information resources and even the portals for school educators and students, and it also supplements to activities in the classroom. And lastly, uh, the tools for distance learning were also being innovated. Okay? So there are a lot of improvements even now and then in the use of ICT in terms of education. Now, what about the employment and poverty alleviation? The emergence and spread of the ICT have its effects on the employment because of the jobs that it has created. Of course, ICT, nung nagkaroon ng application ng ICT or paggamit ng ICT sa isang bansa or halimbawa sa ating bansa sa Pilipinas, it will also create jobs. Okay? It will also create employment for people. Now, research, development, and manufacturing of ICT related infrastructure and equipment involve heating of employees ranging from construction laborers to scientists and engineers. Now, the businesses generated from the applications of ICT has also, have also emerged, like the online retail stores. We have also the BPO and KPO firms, and the distribution of ICT centers, and among different areas of ICT job related. All right. Now, the developments in the ICT have also spawned a number of crimes such as the privacy, copyright, and even child pornography. These are the common issues or the adverse effect naman in terms of the employment and poverty alleviation. The cybersex, the theft, among others, are considered as sources of employment by some. So these are the illegal jobs whereas connected sa ICT, lalo na yung mga kapit sa patalim. We know for a fact that there are a lot of uh, people who are using the ICT as a tool for them to get money through hacking, through in different terms, and even the online pornography, whereas people are using their children uh to their business transactions. Okay, so these are the adverse effects why there's a poverty alleviation. Now, there has been a relative improvement also in solving the problem in in terms of poverty. So, as I mentioned a while ago, there are adverse effect, but there are also improvement naman in terms of the poverty alleviation because of the commencement of ICT in our country. So, in our country, there are a lot of BPO company that exist that are being set up to cater various businesses in the areas of food and beverages, telecommunications, even banking, finance, research, retail, and any other related jobs to ICT. So, halimbawa, the BPO companies, there are a lot of BPO company who can accommodate people who are 18 years old, even you are a high school graduate, they can accommodate you and be part of their company and be employed. So that's one of the improvement in the ICT, that even though you're not a graduate of college or you're not a college degree holder, still there are companies like the BPO can accommodate you to have to be compensated, okay, in these different ICT based firms. Now, what about its effect on health? Apart from bringing enormous benefits in health, okay, there are a lot of positive effects in terms of health because of innovative ideas and the machines being used for our health matters. Added value 'no, 'yan malaking tulong siya para sa pagpapagamot. But, what are these negative effects of ICT in terms of health? Like for example, today, since we are in currently we are in enhanced community quarantine, most of the people nowadays sleep are the body clock are affected because of too much consumption of internet, too much consumption on the use of gadgets. So excessive, there are times that people are excessing time in playing online games, addiction to games, and it somehow affects our posture. Nakakaapekto siya because when we are using gadgets, Normally, nakayuko tayo or nakakuba na ang ating posture, which is not good. And also, the pornography consumption also is are having, the pornography consumption are having an adverse psychological effects, especially to the teenagers or the young people today. So the improper use and disposal of ICT equipment has also its health risk. So we really need to use technology in a manner that will help us and not will have its, hindi yung mapapahamak tayo because of technology. Now, what about the individuals and communities? So, in our society nowadays, it is visible that in every individual, in every community, um, the positive and negative effects of ICT are really apparent. But to make it more understandable, uh, let me give you an example. In our communities or among our friends, the individualities, when we gather sometimes, pag nagkayayaan or invited by people, sometimes you invited them because you want to have a conversation with them personally. But what happens in reality is that nag-imbita ka pero lahat sila naka-cellphone, right? So it is happening. Okay, it is a fact that is happening today. You invite friends, you invited your family, your relatives, pero ang ending pagdating sa inyong meet up, sa inyong place ay wala naman sa inyong atensyon, bagkus na sa cellphone. So the internet has also become an avenue for children to get access to contents that are not appropriate for their age. Now, there are really families na hindi na monitor kung ano ba yung mga na-view na websites ng kanilang mga anak. Okay? So, there are recent reports that reveal that extremist groups have successfully recruited teenagers in different countries, in Western countries, through online videos, and the parents of these teenagers have no idea that their kids have been radicalized through the internet. So, this is a danger, so that's parents and those guardian should really monitor the websites being visited by their children, and also when they have when they have their younger sibling who are still teenager, it is highly advisable that you have to monitor what are these websites being visited by these children and teenagers. Okay, now what about in innovation and research? So from the previous areas discussed, this one has the most effect would on innovation, having its visible effect of ICT. Now, the innovation is characterized by introducing something new that may result to improvement to that one that has been introduced. So, the ICT developments would not prosper without the application of innovation. Very important. Now, it would not be also possible without a certain degree of research in ICT. So these two are really connected to one another. You cannot create an innovation without conducting a research. But in addition, since information and communication technology has been perceived as having an important innovation, it does not only improve the process done in the fields, but also in terms of the businesses, education, health, security, and facilities, the efficient conducting of research by people involved on those that I have mentioned, in relation to the effective performance of their responsibilities. Like, for example, our professionals can quickly access a study that may help them to provide solution to a specific problem. Like, for example, the doctors. Of course, the doctors have to conduct their own study, their research on how are they going to treat their patients, on or even those um, organization are also conducting research on how are they going to provide to the perceived problems in their society or in their community. So they are really connected to one another. What about in terms of privacy and security? So the application of ICT here had its fair share of positive and negative effects. Well, lahat naman yan. All of these areas have its positive and negative effects. But on this part, in terms of the privacy and security, the installation of, like for example, nowadays, there are a lot of stores sa bahay, sa school, or even other communities ay merong mga naka-install na mga surveillance camera for easy monitoring of what is really happening when no one is around. That's one of the positive effects. But in terms of, yeah, in privacy and security, but in terms of invasion of privacy, this has been one of the problems in ICT because there are leakage in private information sometimes. There are some phishing, hacking na nangyayari, the identity theft in online and even cyberbullying. So there's really a risk in the privacy and it really happens. Like for example, for instance, in a company there is this one worker who tried to uh, use the account of her coworker, nagpaalam na gagamitin yung ganitong email, then binigyan ng consent. But what happened on that situation is that pinakailaman yung conversation doon sa isang naka-open na application. Nagpaalam siya na pwedeng gamitin, but what is not okay there is reading the conversation, those private conversation. Then, because of that, there is an invasion of privacy. So we really have to be careful on how are we going to use ICT to protect our privacy and security. Okay? So these are the different impact areas affected by the supply and demand of ICT. Now let's move forward with this last greatest influencer or greatest factor on the emergence of trends, the mass media. So we have three. First is the democratic intervention, second is the ICT, and last one is the mass media. How does the mass media influence the emergence of trends? This really played a big role. So the most important contribution of mass media in the emergence and development as well as the progression of trends is the power of mass media to influence people. Isn't it right that today, whatever na nakikita natin sa mga ginagamit nating devices, sa TV, sa radio, ay mabilis na napapaniwalaan ng mga tao. That's why mass media has its powerful influence in the emergence of trends. Okay? Now, what does it mean when we talk about mass media? So, understanding this concept, it means the means or the mass media, these are the means or the medium or used to communicate to a large number of people. Therefore, it has something to do with the platform and its audience. That's why it is call as uh, mass media. Mass because it refers to the bulk quantity or many, large number of people. Then when we talk about the media, it is the medium or the platform, channel, way, or a vehicle to communicate to a large number of people. So let's find out. Now, there is a common mistake that people are confused with. The question here is mass media the same with mass communication? Yes or no? Think of it. Is mass media the same with mass communication? Let's find out. When we talk about mass media, as I have mentioned a while ago, this is the platform. The platform being used to communicate to a large number of people. But what about the mass communication? When you think of this term, the mass communication, this is the process. Okay? This is the process on how are you going to impart the information to the large number of people. All right? So again, just think of this difference. Mass media, this is the platform, and then the mass communication, this is the process. Process, mass communication, mass media is the platform or the channel. Now we have these different forms of mass media, namely broadcast, print, digital, and outdoor. When we talk about the broadcast, this refers to the radios and television. Now, what about the print? Among these forms of media, print is the oldest, pinakamatanda. So, the print includes magazines, newspapers, the newspapers, brochures, the flyers. All right. So, these are common examples of print. What about the digital? Okay. When we talk about the digital, this refers to the internet and ebooks. Okay, we get an information through these different websites and as well as the uh, electronic books. It is common nowadays that particularly the young people who love to read electronic books. Okay? And one of its example is the Wattpad. There are a lot of young people there who are really addict to reading stories in Wattpad. There you go. What about the outdoor? When we talk about the outdoor, this refers to the billboards. Yeah, these are the examples. Billboards and even um, the streamers. Okay? So that is what we meant by outdoor. Okay? Now, let's take a short glimpse on the history of mass media. There. There are different versions of the origins of mass media in history. Kung babalikan natin ang history, napakaraming version. Now, some accounts says or some accounts say that it started from the country Egypt with its first book known as the Book of the Dead. So the Book of the Dead that was written around 14,000 BC. Others mention that it plays or other account point to plays performed by artists before a large audience during the ancient times. So ito yung isa sa pinaniniwalaan on the beginning of mass media daw, the printed copy of this Book of the Dead. Now, because of these different accounts, ang daming mga nagsasabi, mga conflict or um, debates about saan ba talaga nagsimula ang mass media. Now, around 100 BC, other accounts believe that the first print began in Rome through the Acta Diurna. the Acta Diurna is the first news sheet. First began in Rome. Okay? Now, another thing, yeah, this is the example. Now, around 1450s, by 1450s, Johannes Gutenberg in Germany, he published the first version of the Latin Bible through his printing press. Okay? So, this is the point when the printing press and the movable type were invented. Yeah. So, this has been used in printing the Bible. So, this is the printing press and the other one is the movable type. That was being utilized by Johannes Gutenberg. Now, in addition, okay, so this is the Latin Bible that was being published between 1453 to 1456. The publication of various books followed, which were comprised mainly of religious texts and Latin classics. Because of this one, ang daming mga umusbong na mga religious uh, printed materials or religious text. The reaction to this development were polarized as well. There. And many people were happy because printed books brought unprecedented access to information to a wider audience. So others hindi natuwa pero other people naman have their own reaction or perception that it helped them to have an access to an information. Okay? Now, another thing, newspaper printing also began. Okay? So, because of the invention of printing press, it paved the way for the new paper printing. There, going back. So, um, from the news sheets that circulated in Rome, which is the Acta Diurna, and political pamphlets that appeared approximately 500 years earlier in Europe, one of the first versions of the printed newspaper was published in Belgium at around 1605 and was called Nieuwe Tijdingen. Then the first newspaper in the form and style that we know today is known as Oxford Gazette, which was in the English language and only circulated twice a week around 1665. So, twice a week lang ang kanyang circulation. But, in the year 1702, there's another innovation in the newspaper printing, which is known as the Daily Courant. So, before, kung twice a week lang, when the Daily Courant published, it began the daily basis circulation. It's known as the Daily Courant. Then, the industrialization of printed media also began in 1810 when this person, Friedrich, upgraded the invention of Johann Gutenberg, which was operated manually. This is no longer manual, but automated. So it is only connected to a stream engine that made printing more efficient. So mas mabilis siya compared doon sa previous invention. Since when we talk about industrialization, this is the existence of the machineries, okay, the factories there. Then around 19th century, the beginning with the advent of recordings exist there, nagsimula noong 1890s. And the cinema began around 1910. The radio at about a decade after, as well as the television during the middle of the century. It marked a new age for the mass media. So from the printing, nagkaroon ng broadcasting. Okay? So nauna definitely ang printing. So let me introduce to you now what are the 7 mass media. We have the following. Let's start with The print, as I have discussed a while ago, this is the longest existing form of mass media, pinakamatanda. Its existing as a mass medium began in the mid 15th century when the printing press was invented. And this includes the magazines, papers, or the newspapers, pamphlets, brochures, flyers, and even journal. So from the onset, print was considered as portable media since it can be carried anywhere. It's easy to carry kasi printed lang. And after the print media, we have also another type of mass media, which is the recording. The recording surfaced as a mass media during the 19th century, as I have mentioned a while ago, around 1890. Before its arrival, music was also disseminated through print. Okay? But printed music, the music sheets were sold to those who have the skill to play musical instrument. So before the recording, the printed materials or the piano sheets are the one being used by the musician. So it creates music from those printed materials. But because of the existence of this uh, media known as recording, it has its first form, uh, the first form of the clay records that could record music. So from the piano sheets, the music sheets being played by the musician, because of the clay records, it creates it could record now the music, and then later on the voices, such as the speeches and even the audiobooks. Then it developed, nagkaroon na ng development, nagkaroon na ng mga cassette tape, okay? Nagkaroon na ng mga different types of uh, materials that can be used in recording, such as the CD, DVD, the cassette, ito yung pinakaunang-una pa. So nowadays, we can also record through our cell phone. So it also feature audio digital recordings in the MP3 and MP4 formats, yung mga gadgets na ginagamit natin today. Like for example, this one. These are the one of the old school that people used in recording this cassette tapes. If you have tried to use this one, when you have your cassette, this can be used side A, side B. Para siyang kapag napuno na yung sa side A, babaliktarin mo lang and then proceed to side B. So with the use of this cassette tapes, you can easily record your voice, your music, and then papakinggan na lang ulit when you play. Alright? So you on the left side, this is also an old version of a recording material that some of the broadcasters used in recording the interviews and also the speeches from their work, when they but today we have advanced recorders na. Even our cell phone can be used, like for example on this left side. This is a facility from University of Santo Tomas. This is the audio room, and then on the other side is the uh, a station also in University of Santo Tomas, where you can have your shooting inside that room. So they have the audio room, and then they also have this visual room, okay, where they can shoot their online, no, their broadcast, their television broadcast. Okay, now another after the recording, we have also the radio media and the cinema media. There, the cinema at around 1910 is a new kind of mass media began to replace the role of recording. So after ng recording, nagkaroon na ng big picture, the motion picture. Whereas recordings feature sounds, the cinema added other feature, that is moving picture. That's as I have said, the moving picture or the motion picture. Before, it began with black and white, but today we have a lot of development. Hindi na lang siya black and white, but you can also watch movies in a high definition resolution, or even other other types of movies that you have to watch at you have to wear, meron kang kailangang suotin na salamin for you to have a better experience upon watching that movie. So there are a lot of innovations na. There, what about the radio media? Approximately in the 1920s, the radio started to gain popularity as a form of mass media. What served as the radio's claim to fame was its streaming format. So nagkaroon siya ng popularity because of the streaming format, and kung ikukumpara siya sa mga nauna na mga platform, this this one, the radio broadcast are more or less real time, because you can listen this on its actual, like for example live yung kanilang streaming, and then you can update easily, unlike from the print media with which will took several days, na pwedeng kapag nabasa mo siya hindi na siya updated. So that's one of the advantages. But today, aside sa balita, you can also listen to the drama or even the comedy broadcasted on a scheduled basis. Okay? Now, another platform is the television. Okay, the television began conquering the market in the 1950s. This was made possible by merging the multimedia concept of the cinema, therefore nauna ang cinema before the television, with the streaming format of the radio, which can be enjoyed in the comforts of your home. So apparently, this kind of format did not lay anything new on the table. Yet it was able to annex many of the content formats of the other mass media. Kasi it is more convenient more than the cinema. Kasi when you have this television, you can just you can just watch at the comfort of your homes. But today you can also watch through Netflix. You can also watch teleseries from different television station, TV station. So there are a lot of innovations na nagkaroon na rin ng improvement from the appearance of the TV, from its bulky na itsura ng television. Now we have uh, flat screen TV, and today we have the Android TVs na that can also be connected to the internet, where you can watch easily movies or teleserye online. Okay? Because the existence of the internet, yeah, on the left side, around 1990s, this is the time when the internet started to emerge. So the term internet is a combination of two words, interconnected networks. Simply put, as the internet developed over the years, everything that the five mass media had to offer was assimilated by the internet. So parang sa internet kasi, this is also the combination of those previous mentioned mass media. So you can easily access information one click away because of the internet. So the print media now could be a digital uh, that can be accessed through online, that you can read via ebook. If before you can read the newspaper on hand, today you can read the news through a website. Like for example, Philstar, the Manila Bulletin, and so on and so forth. And you can also listen music. Okay, listen music, watch movies, monitor different products, buy products, stream online, watch shows. Okay, so there are a lot that you can browse in the internet. On top of these days, anyone can look up shows that were missed. No, unlike dati, kapag ka na-miss mo ang isang teleserye, ay huli ka na sa balita. Makikinig ka na lang sa kwento. But unlike on the internet, pwede mo siyang balikan. Okay? So that's the beauty on the use of internet. And then lastly, we have this mobile phone. Technically, this is categorized as parang bunso. Okay? It is only came out when mobile phones were considered to be the seventh mass media around 2000. Okay, so this is the youngest among the seven mass media. Mobile phones have been in existence for more than 2 decades. I guess dahil nag-start siya ng 2000 or maybe earlier than 2000, it's at least 2 decades, more 20 years. What makes the mobile phone so relevant as a mass media is that everything that this previous mentioned mass media ay ma-access natin through mobile phone. So this is the easiest way where you can access a lot of information. The mobile phone is the first personal mass media channel. It is easy to carry, right? And this is permanent. Yeah, this is an easy to carry. Unlike those previews, you cannot carry that all the way. And this is always on. Only the mobile phone provides built-in payment channel, which is right. Because today we can easily pay via internet through our phone internet, yeah. And this is the first media with the near perfect audience data. And it captures the social context of the media consumption. Of course, the threat being posed by the use of the mobile phones against the mass media is more formidable than of those internet or the different websites found on the internet. Mobile phones can be considered as the most important mass media in today's era. Okay? So these are some of the examples of mobile phones. Nung nagsisimula pa lang siya. Okay? So these are the Motorola phones na um, easy to carry before, pero medyo makapal pa siya at mukha siyang laruan 'no, kung titignan ninyo. And then for you to have an access sa signal, kailangan mong hatakin pataas yung kanyang, tawag kasi namin dito is parang sungay. So there. And then we have also another different evolution of this Motorola phone. Okay, the flip-flop phone. So these are the old model phones used before, no, 2000, early 2000, the Motorola phone. We have also this Sony Ericsson. Okay, the Sony Ericsson, whereas it can provide you a feature, a colored feature, and different tools that you can also use. And of course, before that, we have the Nokia, this 3210. Okay, the very old school mobile phone being used by a lot of users before. And there are a lot of people who are addict to texting. That's why in the emergence of the telecommunication, they provided a lot of services and promos like the Only Text, Only Call, and that time you can only send or you can only have an unlimited text with the same network. Wala pang ano nun, unlimited text na all network. It's only with the same network. But today, because of the innovative ideas being conducted by the researchers of this telecommunication, naging possible na yung unlimited text and call to other networks. So this is how it goes from 1992, 1994, 1997, 1998 until 2002, which is more easy to carry mobile phone. All right? So this is how mass media affect the emergence of trends. So again, to sum it up, the mass media refers to the different kinds of technology used to communicate to a larger number of people. And to name the seven mass media, we have the print recordings, cinema, radio, television, internet, and mobile phones. So uh, this mass media has been a great help in using or in the access of information. Okay, so therefore, with those different presented mass forms of mass media and types of or the seven mass media, it it has also its influence. How this mass media influence the people nowadays. All right. So I guess this is the end of our session for today, and I hope you have learned something. God bless you and take care always.